Hey, Pauline, can I confirm with you that you can see my PowerPoint here?
Whoops. Yes, I can.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well,
You're
hello,
welcome.
everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to today's Tech Tuesday. We're going to be talking about Poll Everywhere. My name is Vanessa and I'm one of the communications specialists with ITS. And I've got some experience using Poll Everywhere to kind of help engage your audience when you're making a presentation, giving a lesson, or you just need some quick feedback from whoever you're presenting to. I really appreciate you all joining today. Just so you know, I am recording today's session. So if there's anything you want to go back and review, I will be sending out a link to this recording later on today in a follow-up email. Whatever email you use to register, that's the one I'm going to be sending to. Also, we do expect a few people on today, so I do have everybody's microphones on mute. However, if you want to ask a question at any point during the session, please feel free to just type it up in the chat and I'll be stopping every so often just to see if there are any questions that I can help with. So without further ado, let's get started. So what is Poll Everywhere? Poll Everywhere is our official audience response solution at Weill Cornell. So what that means is you create a poll really quickly and you post it somewhere online. It can be within your own browser or it can be within a PowerPoint presentation like I'm going to do in just a bit. And people just respond. They use their own devices. It can be an iPad, a laptop, their phone, anything that has access to a web browser. There's even a Poll Everywhere app if they do it quite frequently, and they just respond. And that's how you're going to get instant feedback. And not only can they answer your questions, but they can see the results in real time wherever you're deciding to display it. So it's very interactive. It can be a really great way to keep people interested in whatever it is that you are presenting. And they can be conducted live, again, for large or small audiences. So, I mean, you could present to a couple of people, and by large, what that means is our license allows for 1,600 responses for a poll at any given time that you're presenting. So that's quite a lot of people. So, I don't think most people would necessarily have to be worried that they wouldn't be able to include everyone who's participating in their presentation. So why should you use Poll Everywhere? There are a few reasons. I personally think it's pretty fun, especially depending on the types of questions you ask, but it's just a way to make your presentation just a bit more interesting so that people feel that they're a part of it and that they can interact. You can use Poll Everywhere for things like knowledge checks. So if you teach regularly in a classroom setting, you just want to make sure that everybody is understanding the material, throw up a quick Poll Everywhere poll and just see if they're getting the information. Do you understand this? And you'll be able to tell right away. And if they're not quite getting the information, you've got the results right there to kind of go back over the material. You can get immediate feedback from colleagues. So if you're in a meeting and just kind of want to see what your colleagues think about a certain topic, throw up another poll and see, right then and there what everybody thinks. You can also do some really cool team building activities. There is a competition mode in Poll Everywhere that I won't have enough time to demonstrate today, but it is very cool. If you've ever done something like bar trivia, that's exactly what it is. There's points. It's really great. I helped one department do it a couple of years ago, and it's just a really cool feature that's part of Poll Everywhere that you should keep in mind. And it's free. So there's no added cost to you if you want to use Poll Everywhere. You don't need to make a special request to access the app. It's available online. You just go type in a URL and then sign in with your Seaweed and password and you're ready to go. So really great features about Poll Everywhere. So who can use it? So presenter accounts are available to faculty and staff. So as long as you have an active Seaweed and password, you can sign in, create polls, and present them and collect the information and display it on screen. Students have responder accounts so that they can take the polls. So that's the difference between the two. So this wouldn't be a good presentation if I couldn't actually demonstrate how these polls work. So if you have a phone on you, an iPad, or just using your laptop, if you could go to this URL, pollev.com/Vanessa, And when you've gotten there, if you could just, do a little thumbs up or type in the chat that you're ready, that would be great. I'll give you guys a little bit of time to get to that URL. Okay, I see one thumbs up from Doug. Awesome. I'll wait for a couple more. All right, Irene seems to be ready. A few more. And just so you know, this URL is going to also be on the top of all of these polls so that you can, it won't disappear. You'll be able to see it. I'll give everybody a little bit more time. Okay, I see that people are starting to log into the URL. So you should see a screen similar to this big orange one that says, hang tight, your poll is loading. And when I move to the next slide, it might take a few seconds, but you should see this poll. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie? And you should have the option to vote. Pauline, can I just verify that you can see the results as well on your screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So everybody should be seeing right now in real time as you vote, everybody's picking their favorite Girl Scout cookie. We've got Thin Mints and s'mores actually in the lead. Wow. Okay, that doesn't happen. It's usually between Samoas and Thin Mints, but I don't want to influence, so I'm going to stop talking for a little bit. All right. There are 6% of people out there who have never had a Girl Scout cookie or don't eat it. I'm so sorry. You should. But as you can see, as everyone starts voting, the numbers change on screen to reflect what those votes are. So this is probably one of the more common types of questions, multiple choice, that you'll see in Poll Everywhere. So let's look at another question type and see what we get. So guys, I always ask people what shows I should put in my queue for Netflix, HBO, whatever it is. Feel free to type in a response and let me know what I should be watching. So I have Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. That's the first one that showed up. Somebody does not watch TV, or there is a show called Don't Watch TV. FBI International, Ted Lasso. So you guys see, like, this one takes a couple of seconds to populate on screen when you answer, but you'll see that everybody's responses are just showing up here, like in the order that they were collected. So it's got 60 Minutes, Law and Order SVU. I should not watch TV. I disagree. But there's a lot of good shows out there. There's a lot of good storytelling. I got to do it. Oh, I love House of the Dragons, whoever put that one. And I don't think we're going to see it again until 2024. So that makes me very sad. But thank you guys for responding to this one. I've got one more for you. So this is a much different type. Where is the gallbladder located in this image? So all you have to do is tap on your screen where you think this gallbladder is. And you're going to see these green pinpoints showing up on the screen. And please don't be embarrassed if you don't know where it is. I know everyone on here is not, a physician, so that's fine. But just put where you think it is, and we'll go from there. By the way, you may see some notifications on your device that says register for credit or cookies. I should have mentioned that a little earlier, and I apologize. But you can skip over those for now and just vote. So, okay, we've got a few answers here on the screen. What's really cool about these image-based questions is that I can actually reveal where the correct area is by clicking on this option that says regions. And it seems like 44% of you got it in this kind of shady, dark area over here. And that is where the gallbladder is. So congratulations to the 41% of you who knows where our gallbladder is in the body. Awesome. So, okay, those are just a few examples of using Poll Everywhere. So how do we do this? We're going to move into the demo right now. So the way you get to Poll Everywhere, super simple. Just go to polleverywhere.com and we're going to log in with our seaweed and password. I'm going to show you what that looks like. There's lots of different help options to learn other ways that you could use Poll Everywhere, or if you've got questions about how to set things up in a certain way. Their support site is great. I use it myself if I have questions about how to do something in the system. And then if you have questions about our license, our specific license and what it includes, you can go to the ITS website at its.weill.cornell.edu. I think you can actually type in that URL and do /poll everywhere, and it will take you directly to the page. So, you know, that there you can get information as well as guides about how Poll Everywhere works. So without further ado, I am going to head into the demo. So let me stop sharing here and move into my browser. I think I've got a few questions maybe. Oh, no lemon ups. I do need to add lemon ups to the Girl Scout cookie one. Sorry about that, Raul. There's been a lot of changes and they have the raspberry rallies now. So, you know, there's lots of options there. Pauline, can you just confirm that you can see my browser of the Poll Everywhere website?
Yes, I can.
Thank you so much. Actually, so this is what the Poll Everywhere dashboard looks like. But what I'm going to do actually sign out really quickly so that I can show you how to get here from the beginning. So you're going to go to polleverywhere.com and you're going to go to the upper right where it says log in and where it says email or username. You have to type in your Weill Cornell email address. Okay. So I'm going to do that right now. And you're going to hit next, okay? And what this is going to do is that button is going to change into a message that says log in with Weill Cornell. So it's identifying the fact that you're using our Weill Cornell license. If for some reason in the past you had a personal Poll Everywhere account and you used your Weill Cornell email address to set it up, you may have issues logging in to our institutional license, which includes like kind of all the bells and whistles about how to use the app. So if that is the case, if for some reason in the past you had a personal account with this email address, please contact our ETG support. I'll be sure to put that in the follow-up email I send to everybody, and we can help you fix your account so that instead you're going into our institutional license, all right? So I'm going to log in with Weill Cornell, and you're going to see the very familiar login screen for your seaweed and password, and boom, I'm back into my dashboard. So you'll see a couple things on your dashboard. You can see the most recent polls that I, was in and editing, and you can see, my URL and all these other things. So on the left-hand side, we have our menu. And usually the first thing I tell people to do if they're brand new to Poll Everywhere, the first thing you should do is head over to the very bottom where you see your profile icon. It looks like a little person, okay? Because what you should do is check under personal info and see what your URL is. So when you sign up to use Poll Everywhere for the first time, Poll Everywhere is going to auto-generate like a bunch of letters and numbers together, and that's going to be your URL. And that's not usually ideal. It's not a good way to remember a URL, especially if you plan to present a lot. So you can actually change your username into whatever you want. You could do pollev.com/whatever. I was lucky in that no other Vanessa who uses Poll Everywhere uses this URL. So I got it and I hit change and it's mine forever and nobody else can use it. So highly recommend just take a look at what your username is and change it if you plan to use it a lot and you want an easier URL to remember. You can also download a QR code. So if you're planning to present your polls using PowerPoint and you just want people to scan it with their phones, you can definitely do it that way too. So, two options here to access your polls. There are a lot of different settings that I don't have time to go into. However, I'll point out a couple that I think might be useful. If you ever plan on presenting and expect perhaps some international participants to join your meeting, if you're doing it over Zoom or anything like that, or just giving a conference somewhere else that is not in the United States, you can go to international text messaging and you can actually add any countries of participants that you expect to be in attendance. And there are a couple of ways to vote in Poll Everywhere. One is by URL and the other is people can text in their responses. So if you plan on using the text messaging, pick one of these countries and then that number will appear on your slides when people are, asked to join the session and, vote. There's also a features lab. So if there are any, new features that you'd like to test out in Poll Everywhere, you can certainly turn them on here. They've got pre-release features and beta features. I think I saw a raised hand. Michele, let me take you off the mic. Michele, did you have a question?
Yeah, hey, for with the web browser, international users you don't need to do anything, no?
Right. So
Only for text.
again, the web browser, and I'm going to go through this in a little bit when I demonstrate. The web browser, I think, is probably the most ideal because most people have a smartphone or a smart device that they can easily pull up a browser. So I think if you ever use Poll Everywhere, I think you should always have the website option 100% of the time, right? But some people do like the text messaging option. Not everybody has, a smart device, and it really depends on your audience. So if you wanted to add the text messaging option, you can. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Kaylee. All right. So again, this is in your profile, and you can take a look at all of these settings if you'd like when you have a chance. But let's get into the polls, all right? So this home icon is obviously my home dashboard, but now I want to head into this icon that looks like a little graph, and that's my activities dashboard. So activities gives me a summary of what's going on with all of my polls. So I can see the last poll I activated. That's super important. When you activate a poll, it means that it's open for people to vote on, all right? So if nothing is activated, that means nobody can vote on my poll. So it's telling me the last one I've got open, which is the gallbladder one that I haven't turned off. I can also see a summary of every single poll that I have done. And, I've got some folders that I've created for specific presentations where I just had a lot of polls at once and I wanted to group them together. I've also got a couple of folders that I've shared with others, which I'll go over probably a little closer towards the end. But if you want to create a new poll, what you need to do is hit this big blue activity button that has a plus sign. So we're going to do that. And you can see that there are lots of poll question options rather, that you can select from. So multiple choice is probably the most popular. That's the one I'm going to demonstrate in a bit. But just so you can see, you can do word clouds. Q&As tend to be quite popular. If I click this more button, there's a ton of options that have been added. So brainstorming discussions. I mean, there's a ton. I can't go through all of them, unfortunately, in the time that we have, but I definitely encourage you to just take a look at all of these and see how they might be useful to your own presentations. So I'm going to go ahead with multiple choice. And you can see that depending on the question that I select, this underneath the area underneath changes so that I can create the poll depending on what option I selected. So let's go back to multiple choice, and I'm going to ask a very hard-hitting question today, which is, how do you pronounce this term? All right, so that's my question. If you put it in the title field right here, and I've got two options right now, so I'm going to select hard G as in goat or soft J as in jar. So do you say GIF or GIF? That's what I want to know. If there were more options I wanted to make available, I could hit add option here and another field would show up so that I could add it to my poll. In this case, I don't know any other ways that people pronounce this. So I just want these two options. I'm going to hit this trash can icon right here to delete that third answer choice. You can also see this little icon here. This is for if I wanted to add an image to these particular answers. So if I had a picture of a goat for some reason, I could upload it there. Same thing with a jar, I can upload the image there. There's also these check marks. So in this case, there's no correct answer, but if there was an answer I felt was correct, or if I was giving a quiz, all I'd have to do is click the check mark. And when people answer the poll, I can later reveal the correct answer if this was a quiz of some type, right? In this case, this is not one of those types of questions, so I'm not going to do that. And then you'll see the left-hand side of these fields have these click and drag options so that I can reorder my answers if I wanted to. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I've created my question. It didn't take too long. So now I kind of want to throw it out there in the world so that people can take the poll and answer the questions, and then I can look at how they answered. So what I can do is, if this is the only poll that I want in this particular session, I can just hit create. And if I wanted to add more polls, you know, in a series for a presentation, I could do add another activity. But in this case, this is the only one I want. So let's hit create. All right, you're going to see now I'm taken to a different screen, and this is giving me a preview of what this poll is going to look like when I present. You can see it's already branded with the Weill Cornell logo and the colors. So if you're doing a presentation, you know, while representing Cornell, you're all good. You don't have to do much in terms of visual settings. But let's go through some of these configurations to make sure that the poll is working exactly how you'd want to. So right now you can see there is a notification at the top that says when the poll is active, you can respond to pollev.com/Vanessa or text Vanessa to 22333 to join. So I have two ways for people to join, either through browser or by text messaging. However, if I go into this first option of how people can respond, I can change that. So these two options are selected, but if I wanted to, I could get rid of one. Like I was mentioning with Michele, I really recommend to always have the website option available. Again, most people have smart devices and can easily get to a URL. Text messaging is, it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. So in this case, a lot of all the multiple choice questions or any questions that involve somebody typing in like a written answer, they work with text messaging. But if you remember earlier, I had that question about identifying the gallbladder in an image, and that doesn't work with text messaging, right? So if there are certain question types that aren't going to work with text messaging that you're planning to display as part of your presentation, I would suggest actually removing the text messaging option because there's going to be a weird disruption when you present, right? I can send you in the follow-up email the questions that do not allow for a text message option, and then you can make your decision there how you'd like your polls to be set up. But just something really important to consider as you create your presentations with Poll Everywhere. So you can determine how people respond to your poll. You can decide who is allowed to take your poll. So normally in this case where I'm just presenting to a group of people, I just let everyone participate. I don't have any restrictions. If you are, if you teach, if you're a professor or, a trainer of some kind, and you do have a particular audience that you just want to make sure they can only take your polls, you can actually restrict it to registered participants only. You'll have to obviously determine who those people are in advance, and that's going to be done in this icon here where you add participants, but we'll go over that in a second. But this is where you would determine at least who it's restricted to, just a few people or everyone. And then how do you want to identify participants? So if your poll is open to everyone, you won't necessarily know who is taking your poll, right? Which in this case is fine. I don't need to know whose favorite Girl Scout cookie is Thin Mints. It's fine. I just kind of want to know how many, right? But you may want to know how a random person has answered across all of your polls during a presentation. So Poll Everywhere can create an auto-generated ID, which just assigns a person a random number, and you can see how they voted throughout your session, if that's the type of information you're looking for. However, if you want it to be completely anonymous, that's also fine. You just won't be able to track how one particular person answers during an entire session. So it really depends what you want. There's no right or wrong. It's solely what benefits you and the types of results you're looking for. You'll also see there's a response setting. So this is where you can determine how many times somebody can answer, if they can change their answers. So take a look at this section as well, the response settings, to see how you would like to restrict or not restrict people from answering your questions. And then there's a schedule lock time. So you can set up automated times when people can and cannot take your polls. I haven't personally used this because I tend to do polls, live, and, when they're on screen, they're available. But if you're doing a kind of survey, perhaps in Poll Everywhere, which you can do, you could perhaps set up times where it is open and, have it close automatically that way. So just keep it in mind that you can do that if you need to. All right. And then if you needed to, once you configure everything, you can test and send it out. However, there's a really easy way to do that. You could just do it from here. So there's two ways that you can present a poll. One is right here in your browser, and the other is in a slide deck, like in the PowerPoint presentation I showed you a little while ago. I'll show you the first way, which is presenting. So this poll is now activated and you should be able to take it. So if you still have that browser open, you can vote on how you think GIF or GIF should be pronounced. So I'll give you a couple seconds to place your very important answer to this extremely important topic. Oh, okay. It's changing. Oh, there's more of a fight than I anticipated. All right. Well, it seems like the GIFs have it. People prefer hard G in lieu of soft J. So this is just me presenting the poll very quickly from my browser. And, it only took me a couple minutes to set it up. Of course, it took a little longer when I was demonstrating it, but you can see how fast you can create these polls and put them together to display them to an audience. All right. You'll notice too, when I hover over this particular poll, there is a little black bar that shows up at the bottom. This allows me to change certain things in the poll as it's going on. So right now you can see everybody's responses, but if I wanted to do something where I asked the question first and then I wanted to reveal them after I gave everybody time to place their answer, I could do instructions and it's hidden, right? The answers are hidden, and then I could hit responses and reveal, like make it a little bit more dramatic. And this might be useful for presentations where you kind of ask questions to gauge the audience's opinion about something. You don't necessarily want to sway it, right? So you might hide it first under instructions and then reveal it later to, make perhaps a point about what it is you're teaching. If I click under more, you can go through the visual settings. I'm not going to go through them too much in this case because, again, we have the branding available. But under visual settings, we do have some options where instead of a bar graph, you could show a pie chart, for example. So, when you've got some time, go through the visual settings and see what makes sense to you. But the really important thing here is clear responses. So I use some of my polls quite frequently, like the Girl Scout one. I do it all the time just to demonstrate how Poll Everywhere works. But when I present it a second time, I don't want people to see what other people answered before them. So I usually clear the responses so that it's a blank slate each time I present the poll. So just keep in mind that every time you present your polls, and if you're going to use a poll over and over again, make sure you always clear those responses before you present again, so that other people's answers from past sessions don't show up in your current presentation, okay? I think I've got a couple of questions in the chat. So, okay, I just see that there are people. Thank you to Rob and Pauline for helping out with some people's questions there about seeing everything. So let me back out of here. So this is how you show a poll from your browser, but how do you get it into PowerPoint, let's say? So let's go back to the home screen, hitting this home icon. Oh, wait, actually, activities. Sorry, that's the right place. So hit the activities graph icon. And if you scroll all the way down, first thing you've got to do, you've got to download a special app, a desktop app for Poll Everywhere if you want to integrate it with your PowerPoint. Or there's other options here, but we're going to focus on PowerPoint today. So if you click on it, it's going to tell you to download it for your specific device. I'm working on a Mac here, so it's telling me to download it for Mac. I've already got it for the Mac, so I'm going to pull it up right now. So you can see on my desktop, I have a Mac, so the Poll Everywhere app is running right here as an application in my dock. If you are on a Windows device, it looks a little different, and unfortunately, I can't show it, but I can send it to you in the follow-up email. But what it'll look like is when you're in PowerPoint, you are going to have in the ribbon an option that says Poll Everywhere, and you're going to click it and just sign in with your credentials like you do with the website, okay? So again, if you're on the Windows, you're going to have a tab up here that says Poll Everywhere, and you need to log in. Or if you're on the Mac, you've got the separate app running at the same time you've got the PowerPoint open, and you sign in with your Seaweed and password, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, just let me know. So what you're going to do is, no matter which way you log in to integrate into Poll Everywhere, you're going to make sure that your presentation is open. And let's say I made these polls already and I just want to throw them into my presentation here. I'm going to click around somewhere around here where I want my polls to show up. And I'm going to go into my app. All right. Oh, I was logged in before, but let's do it again. Let me authorize that really quick. Perfect. Okay. Let's go back into PowerPoint. All right. So, okay. So in my separate app, and this will look similar for the Windows, it'll just be like within PowerPoint itself. You're going to see the same summary of polls that you worked on, right? So I just did this poll. How do you pronounce GIF? I'm going to select it, and you'll see there's an option at the top that says insert slide. So that's what I'm going to do. I would recommend just usually do default. It's easier. And you're going to just hit insert slides again. And it's going to take a second depending on how many slides you want to add. But you'll see now right here, it threw in my GIF slide, and I can move it anywhere I want to, just like I could with any PowerPoint slide, and determine where I want it to be in the presentation. Okay. So you'll notice with Poll Everywhere slides, they have these little kind of blue and gray squares in the corner. What that does is it indicates that this is a Poll Everywhere slide, and you'll know that it's working when these little squares go away when you're in slideshow mode. So when you're in your PowerPoint presentation, when this is in slideshow mode, these little squares go away and you'll know it's active. So I'm going to go in slideshow mode really quick for this one. And you'll see it kind of blinks for a second and the squares go away. So now I know that this is active and people can take it because it's displaying on screen, okay? So you can only activate one poll at a time. So if you've got polls ahead of this one and you move on to the slide, no one can take the polls that have already passed. They can only take the one that they're seeing on screen, okay? Hopefully that makes sense, but let me check in the chat really quick. Okay, no questions. I think it was just a comment. So that's how you would add the polls to your PowerPoint presentation, okay? And I do actually have a tip-up video that shows this as well, so I'll make sure that that's part of the follow-up email. Let me go back into my Poll Everywhere account, and really quickly, let's go to participants. So I mentioned before that if you teach a class and you have a roster of people who normally take your course and you only want to limit your polls to those people, you would hit this participants icon, which is just two little people, and you can add participants this way. So you can see I've got some from like these test accounts that I have. So these are all of my participants. And on the right-hand side, you could see all of my classes, right? And depending on which icons are filled, those are the classes those people are registered in, right? So I can make sure that these people are the only ones who get a particular poll, depending on which class that I select. But if I wanted to add participants, there are a couple ways I could do it. So let me hit this Add Participants button. I recommend two options here from the three. One is you could grab a link and send it to everybody and just say, hey, sign up to be a participant in my Poll Everywhere account, and they can do it. One way that I think is a little more organized is if you import them already, if you know ahead of time who's going to be in your session. So I'm going to hit import really quick. And you can see that Poll Everywhere needs 3 things at minimum to register people into your account, which as participants, which is email, first name, and last name. And you can even download a CSV file in Excel, and it'll have the template ready to go, and you can just input the people's names and their email address, and you're good to go. Then it's an easy step-by-step process that's laid out. You would upload the CSV file here. I would recommend checking off email the login instructions to everybody, and then either select the class that you want to add these participants to, or just create an entirely new class and hit create, and then hit continue, and Poll Everywhere will do all the work from there. It'll take all the information that you put in your Excel file and email everybody and assign them to the class, and then you're done. And when you create your poll and you make it limited to those specific people, Poll Everywhere knows what class they're in and where they should assign the results to. So it ends up working out very nicely in this one application, okay? I'm going to go to reports really quick. So if you ever want to go back and see how people answered your polls, there is an option to go to reports and run various, reports of, maybe the last time you did the poll, every single time you did the poll. So let's do create report. And there's a few options here. You could create executive summaries of all responses of particular polls. Audience response is probably the easiest one. You just want to know how people answered. And then you've got pivot tables, participant response, and gradebook, which is good, again, if you are teaching a course. I'm going to do audience response really quick. And I would just select the poll that I wanted to do. I will do the gallbladder. Actually, no, let's do Girl Scout cookie because that one I asked the most, and create my report. So it's going to take a second, but so I can see, like, from this last run, there were 22 people who participated. I got 22 responses, and I can get an idea of how people answered, right? But if I go here on the right-hand side and do select run, I can do every single time I've run this poll, and it's going to take a second to think, but it'll change the numbers at the top. So you could see I've 224 people have answered this, and I can download if I wanted or print a report of how people responded. There's also some reporting options here to show specific metrics, and I can even do select presenter. So in this particular case, I'm the only one who presents this poll, but if it's a poll that a lot of people have access to on my team, for example, I can select the person and run a report of how their responses have been over a given time period. When it comes to sharing polls, that requires a little bit of work on the ETG support side. So if you ever wanted to share polls with other people, like you all plan on using the same questions when you're presenting, you can contact ETG support. Again, I'll put it in the follow-up email and ask, hey, I want to create a group or a team rather, and Poll Everywhere with these people, and make sure to add yourself if you want to be part of it. And we'll create the team for you. So I have a team here called WinIT. There's 7 of us. So when I create polls, I can actually share them. So these are shared folders with those 7 people, and they all have access to the polls. We can all use them at any time. 2 of us can even present the poll simultaneously, and it wouldn't affect the other one's answers. Like, so, you feel free to share with other people on your team if you're in a situation where, maybe there's a group of people who train and they just want to use similar polls. They don't necessarily want to create them all from scratch and run reports together. So that's how you would do it here under Teams. I'm going to go into the questions really quick. Does anybody have any questions about Poll Everywhere? I'm in the chat, and I know that Rob, I see a raised hand. So let me go there really quick. Hold on one second. All right, there we go. All right. So let me go into here. All right, Harris, you should be able to unmute yourself for any questions you'd like to ask. I don't think I can hear you, Harris.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay, thanks. So yeah, I wanted to ask, like you said, we could log in with our personal emails as well instead of the Weill Cornell ones. So if we do that and we have an account on Polls Everywhere, how different is that from the one that you're showing us with Weill Cornell? What are the main features that are missing from the other one?
So actually, I recommend using the Weill Cornell account because you'll have kind of all the features as part of our license. You can set up personal accounts. Actually, I think we've got Rob Dietz on, who manages our instructional technologies. Rob, if you wouldn't mind, can I ask you to unmute? So you might be able to answer this question better than I can in regards to our license.
Yeah, so you would be missing the branding aspects of our institutional license, and you would run into limits on how many polls you could have and how many responders you could have and so forth. And it's easy to switch. So if you just change your email that you already have in your personal account to your Weill Cornell email, then we in ETG can invite you into that account, and all of your polls that you've already made will just get transferred to the institutional account.
Thanks, Rob. I think we have a hand raised from Michele. Michele, can you unmute?
Yeah, so to finish, to add something to what Rob said, the major limitation to the free account is that you can only have 25 people answering. So if you have more than 25 people that you want to ask an opinion, you have to use the Cornell account.
Yeah, again, the Cornell account has it's very robust in terms of the question types you can use, how many people can participate. I think there's also some security settings that are part of our license that are listed on the ITS website about what's included with your account. So just in general, I really recommend using our account. I mean, there's no added cost to you and you kind of get everything. So, just head to the use your Med Cornell email and you should be fine. You should have access to everything. Any other questions that we can help with before we sign off? We've got a few minutes, so I just want to make sure that if there's anything I might have missed or gone too fast and you want me to show it again, I'm happy to do so. Also, I just want to give Rob, I don't know if I missed anything. Rob, again, manages Poll Everywhere and a bunch of other instructional technologies tools. If you want to add something that I might have missed, please feel free.
No, very nice presentation. I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but you covered a lot of stuff.
Thanks, Rob. I just wanted, you never know. I mean, I know that Poll Everywhere changes and adds things too. So there are things I might not be aware of, but I appreciate it. Thank you. It seems like we're not getting questions, but it seems like people appreciated the presentation. I appreciate you guys joining today. Thank you so much. Again, for anybody who signed in late, I have recorded today's session. So I will send you a link later on today where you can go back over this recording again, and also some follow-up links to some support guides that kind of illustrate the things that we talked about today, as well as a few tip-up videos that we've done about Poll Everywhere. There were things I couldn't cover today, like moderation, which usually works ideally with 2 people, one presenting and one moderating the responses. Again, a video of how to set up your PowerPoint, and just a couple of other useful tips, I think, in presenting that will help you as you start using Poll Everywhere for your own presentation. So again, if you've got any questions that come up after the session, feel free to just reply to the email and I'm really happy to help, or even direct you to the person who could help if it's not me. And I'll just wrap up today's session and just keep an eye on your inbox for a message from me, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much, everyone.